You may have in recent years heard about Mzansi's growing problem with the so-called construction mafia. Well, in today's edition of The Lead, we learn the intricacies of a project development extortion racket allegedly operating out of Vlakfontein, south of Johannesburg, and how a senior ANC city councillor has been allegedly orchestrating this shakedown with a stalled school refurbishment project now at its centre.
I put the questions to him via WhatsApp, and he responded in a series of seemingly enraged messages as well. Firstly, denying that, he's involved in the construction mafia. Secondly, saying that I probably have an agenda against him because I've written a story about him in the past. He said I'm hell-bent on tarnishing his name as well and tarnishing his reputation, and all he does is work for the community.
Let's head down a construction cartel rabbit hole with journalist Tembisa next. Later in the show, the people of Tembisa protest over high electricity fee hikes. And finally, a rare sighting indeed, Knysna's only elephant spotted in the wild.
To know when the next episode drops, hit the like, follow, and subscribe buttons on our YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast channels.
If you'd like to engage us on this episode's topics, send us your thoughts and opinions to our official The Lead WhatsApp line. That number 072 562 3179. My name's Graham Robenheimer. Let's chat all this and more right here on The Lead on News 24. A top councillor wearing the ANC colours in the city of Johannesburg stands accused of meddling in and stalling key public infrastructure developments in Gauteng, extorting payments before work can even get underway. Tembisa Zungu, though, has denied these claims, threatening our man on the beat, Tembisa, in the process. Well, Zungu is currently the ANC's chief whip in council, but it's his former position of chairperson of the Ward 122 Business Forum based out of Vlakfontein that acts as the entry point into this particular story. The influential councillor allegedly served a short stint behind bars for extorting funds out of the Lahey housing project based out of Lenasia back in 2019. Aha! The plot certainly thickens here. To tell us more about these claims of a construction mafia racket allegedly led by Mr. Zungu, my colleague Tank joins me live on the line now. Tank, thanks so much, my brother, and welcome back to The Lead.
Thank you so much for having me, Graham. I'm happy to be back.
Fantastic. You are very much a busy man at the moment on very interesting stories, and I'm sort of as a journalist based out of Cape Town, I'm sort of kind of jealous because a lot of these stories are quite meaty based out of Gauteng. This latest one, of course, about this. He's no small fry councillor, right, Tembisa? This is a pretty heavy hitter councillor in terms of the ANC politics world in Gauteng. He's a chief whip in the city of Johannesburg. What type of person is Mr. Zungu? You've been dealing with him for the longest time now.
I'm not quite sure what kind of person he is, but he's quite aggressive. I don't enjoy my interactions with him, but what I know about him is the profile that I did on him, how he started out. He started out as an intern at a property company. And then he moved on to being the chairperson of the business forum in Ward 122. And I think that's where he got a lot of exposure regarding how things operate in terms of building projects or construction projects that happen within his ward. And he had a better understanding of it and knew how to manipulate the system. From there, he moved on to being the chairperson of the ANC, chairperson of the ANC in his ward, and also the councillor in his ward through by-elections, because the councillor in that area died, I think, in 2021 when he assumed the position, if not 2019. I stand corrected on that. And he's slowly been rising through the ranks. I think it was last year when he was made chief whip. Aside from that, he is also part of the mayor's bomb squad, Tata Moreo's bomb squad, which was assembled to tackle service delivery in the city of Johannesburg. So that's where he's currently at. He was also shot during a community engagement with Rand Water, where I think the CEO of an official from Rand Water was killed, and he was shot in the leg. So that's as much as I know about him.
Sure, that's quite a lot, quite an extensive history as we build up to the crux of the story, Tank. Let's begin with 2019. There's this interesting Lahey housing project, a lot of money being pumped into it based out of the Lenasia area. And this is the first time that we see Mr. Zungu finding himself on the wrong side of the law. What happened exactly here? He's alleged to have also meddled or tried to strong arm in this particular development project, and he in actual fact was sentenced for that meddling, right?
Indeed he was. So initially it started with the business forums, and they wanted a stake in the project. About more than 70 housing units were being built by a private company, and the business forums wanted to take part in it forcefully in this case. And he was the head honcho from the court documents that I read, because he was interdicted along with the current chairperson of the business forum in his ward, Thulani Motswagai, and another character from a neighboring ward, along with a list of other individuals and taxi associations and business associations or other businesses who were demanding to be paid or demanding work from that particular site. An interdict was, or rather, the company was able to obtain an interdict from the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg, to which Zungu and everyone else who was included in the interdict contravened. And this resulted in an order being made for him and two others to serve two months in the Johannesburg Correctional Facility. However, it's not clear whether or not he did serve those 2 months.
Tank, this was Sun City, right? This was Sun City? Yeah. And so I thought this super interesting. You go to the Correctional Services Department, the spokesperson that we all know in the media, Singobako Nklamalo, you ask him, did this guy actually end up serving his time? And what was the answer?
His answer was that we don't have a record of him.
Okay.
And my sources told me that he went to the correctional facility. He was there for about a day. And the next day they saw him out in the streets in Vlakfontein. So they don't know what happened. Nobody really knows what happened. I've tried contacting the company to find out what actually happened with that order that was made. I haven't received any feedback from them. Zungu, on the other hand, denies entirely that he was sentenced to 2 months. Never mind spending time in jail. He just outright denies that he was sentenced. He outright denies that he contravened a court order. But it's in the court documents. It's right there. So,
and that's public knowledge. That's on the court roll. Public knowledge, right?
It's public knowledge, yes.
So let's go to the latest in Mr. Zungu's trail of alleged interference in key infrastructure projects in Gauteng, and your story, our front page of News 24, and it's been our lead on the front page today. 135 million rand school project crumbles as Joburg Chief Whip faces quote-unquote construction mafia allegations. Now the latest, of course, in Vlakfontein, which is Ward 122 southwest of Johannesburg. Here's this 135 million rand school refurbishment project. It's for the local Nkululeko Yesizwe primary. That was meant to get underway in 2021. It was meant to sort of be done by 2024, and 135 million rand, as I say, was put aside. But since then, this whole project has been stalled. Why?
A combination of factors. One, which is the key factor, is obviously the extortion aspect of it. I spoke to one of the subcontractors over the weekend, and he told me that one of the reasons is that the subcontractors demand to be paid even if they didn't do any work. They demand payment, so it affects their budget. And attempts to try to get the councillor to intervene in the matter doesn't necessarily take them anywhere. The second is that the subcontractors said they were experiencing challenges with the Department of Infrastructure and Development, getting approvals, and they can't get approvals. Whenever they try to start working, they get disrupted by members of the community, in this case being the business forum. So that's been the two key factors as to why this project hasn't been able to go ahead. one of the responses that I got from the department was that they've terminated the contract of the contractor, and they're trying to get a new contractor to finish. Well, not necessarily finish up. They're probably going to start the process again, and then start working again on the project. So the number of hurdles that have been experienced with this project, and to date, about 45 million has been spent on the refurbishment, but you can't really tell when you visit the school.
It's really, really sad. In the meantime, these are children that are working essentially out of mobile classrooms, right?
Indeed. They're all cramped, well, not necessarily cramped up, but that's the first thing that you see when you approach the school are those containers. So I don't know how comfortable it is for learning.
It's not. It gets hot in summer. We can't assume that they have aircon, right?
Yes. Very cold in winter. I can't even begin to imagine what the teachers have to go through as well. So it's had a very negative impact on the community at large.
You're listening to the latest edition of The Lead on News 24 with Graham Rowenheimer. If you've got an opinion on what you've heard so far, drop us a short voice note on our WhatsApp hotline. That's 072 562 3179.
And according to your sources that have been speaking to you, and as per your piece, Tembisa, I thought quite interesting is that you sort of get like a better understanding as to how this alleged, sort of construction cartel or mafia sort of like operates, right? So in the example of the Ward 122 business forum, quote unquote, here are these companies that allegedly demand these quote unquote facilitation fees, from the department or from the main contractor of the particular infrastructure project, in this case being the refurbishment of the school to 135 million rand. And they say, we need these funds first before you can even step foot on the grounds, right?
Precisely. So I spoke to a former community liaison officer. Community liaison officer deals with issues that arise from the community, and they take them. Basically, they liaise between the main contractor and the community. How can the development benefit the community, and what can the community bring to the table in terms of the contract being completed? And he gave me a breakdown about how this elaborate scheme basically unfolds. The first is having a community participation meeting. And for you to do that, you need the approval of the councillor. And for you to be able to even get to a point where you're meeting with the community, you meet the councillor, and then at that point, you're going to get extorted, because he's going to tell you that you need vulamlomo. And so vulamlomo is a fee that is being charged for someone to open their mouth. That's the literal translation of it. But it's to grease someone's palms for them to facilitate something for you. So that's where the first phase of extortion happens. And the second phase is the site establishment. During the site establishment, that's when the small businesses come in and offer their services to you. And for you to even meet them, you still need the councillor, and you still need to pay a facilitation fee to them, to the councillor. Thereafter, then you'll find your SMMEs who also come and make their own demands, and your budget just
it just depletes. It just depletes. And what was the sort of fee, what was the value of the facilitation fee in this particular case that we were talking about? I think something around 30%?
30% is what the SMMEs wanted for the entire project. So from the...
Do you know how much that was monetary-wise, Tank?
No, not yet. But so far, the contractor told me that he spent over $1 million. He said 800,000, but it's arguably over $1 million for work that's not even complete yet.
Sure. And there are pupils in the meantime who have to sit in substandard conditions, not the best of what they sort of can aspire to or allowed to have in this particular context. And then the Gauteng Infrastructure Development Department, I've previously spoken to your colleague Alex Patrick about that forensic pathology lab next to the Helen Joseph Hospital in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, which has also been sort of stalled for a really long time. It's 98% 98% complete. There, the contractors demanding the last monies owed to them. There was a lot of a myriad of planning issues there, and a lot of other outstanding questions regarding that story. And yet there's also a beautiful building there that could have assisted all of us as residents a lot sooner. So you've got a department that's really struggling with all of these various stalled projects on various fronts. Here's yet another example in this regard. How much has the department revealed to you that they've already spent as part of the 135 million rand on this particular project? How much has already been shelled out? And do we know how much is already spent on actual work being done? Can you differentiate between the two for us, Tank?
The department said it spent the initial estimated cost for the refurbishment project was obviously 135 million, but at the end of 2022 they had spent 31.5 million rands, and since then an additional 16 million has been spent, bringing the total expenditure to 47.8 million. So that's what's been done, or what's been spent so far, according to the department.
But yeah, we don't know how much of that actually went to these SMMEs in the business forum and how much has actually gone to upgrading the school, right? We can't find, I think it's difficult. That would be quite difficult because, notwithstanding you going to every single business and notwithstanding you going to the school itself and seeing it for yourself, it could possibly prolong your investigation by a whole nother month, right, Tank?
Indeed, it could. I mean, when I was there, there's like half-built structures around the school. There's construction equipment packed right at the back of the school. So you can't really tell what's happening, what's been spent on what. Parents are very frustrated. This is 4 years that this project was supposed to be completed last year, and it's been frustrating for them because during construction, there are periods where maybe they won't have water and alternatives have to be made, alternative plans for water have to be made. There's a problem with electricity. So alternative plans have to be made there as well. They are deeply frustrated. They're deeply hurt. They thought this would be a beacon of light in the community. And it could possibly produce members of the community, could be doctors, lawyers, whatever. Imagination is wide, is wide open for that. So they are being stymied, or the progress of their kids is being stymied by a small group of individuals who want to claim ownership over the ward.
One of your sources indicated that this is essentially like a carbon copy sort of modus operandi that's being perpetrated across the country.
Indeed, this is not the first time I've come across a construction mafia story. Last year, I did a story about the installation of fiber cables in the Vaal. And in that story as well, the councillor was also facing allegations of extortion, along with the business forum in that area. And demands were being made by the business forum and the councillor for the project, for the people in charge of the project to cater to other things as well within the ward. For example, they wanted a refurbishment of the ward councillor's offices, but no work was done. But they were charged. Money was given to the business forum for them to refurbish the councillor's office, but nothing was ever done. So this is not the first time something like this has happened, and this is probably not going to be the end of it. So it seems to be a formula that every business forum adopts and implements and hopes for the best.
Yeah, let's quickly end off now. And I thought we can end off with the true illumination of what it takes, like a journalist like yourself, to get a story like this over the line. Of course, right of reply. We as journalists, before flighting stories, we often go to the other side that's been accused. We try and track down everybody involved so that everybody may have their say before we press send and this article appears in your inbox, right? In this case, you go to the business forum and you speak to the chairperson, the current chairperson there. What was their response to your investigation, Tank?
At first, he wanted to know what project I was talking about, but then he denied completely that they're involved in any kind of extortion or construction mafia records. And then when I asked him about the 2-month sentence that he was also implicated in, he told me that he's never been sentenced, he's never been to jail, and that we are basically conducting a witch hunt and trying to tarnish their names. Yeah, that was his general response. It's just denial, denial, denial.
And Mr. Zungu, most importantly, how did he respond? Have you been sort of engaging with him telephonically, WhatsApps? How do you sort of put the questions to him?
I put the questions to him via WhatsApp, and he responded in a series of seemingly enraged messages as well. Firstly, denying that, he's involved in the construction mafia. Secondly, saying that I probably have an agenda against him because I've written a story about him in the past. So he knows who I am. So he said I'm hell-bent on tarnishing his name as well and tarnishing his reputation. And all he does is work for the community. He tried to intervene with the contractor not working, try to intervene between the contractor and the Department of Infrastructure, and that his hands are clean in this. He has no role to play in the halting of the construction of the school or refurbishment of the school.
Sure. So here we've got this 2019 case where it's alleged Mr. Zungu was also involved in meddling and the alleged extortion of so-called quote-unquote facilitation fees in the Lenasia project back in 2019. He allegedly had a short spell in prison. That could not be confirmed as to whether or not he even, did the time there. We've got the school that he was once the chairperson of the local business forum that's alleged to have been extorting more funds out of that. There's not much to show for it in terms of the refurbishment there. And then very lastly, Tank, as we now end off, there's another project that has come across your desk. It's about the rehabilitation of the Golden Highway stretch in Gauteng, specifically that route between Johannesburg and Vanderbijl Park. That's also a much bigger project, 550 million rand. And here Mr. Zungu's name's come up again. What's been pointing you to this at the moment?
There were court papers that were filed by the company responsible for refurbishing the Golden Highway. It's a 62-kilometer stretch, and it links a lot of suburbs. Carries a lot of traffic on a daily basis. They filed court papers seeking the court to interdict various business forums because the stretch of road stretches between a lot of wards. So it's not just Mr. Zungu's ward that is affected, but also neighboring the wards as well. So each has its own business forum. Taxi associations as well, civic associations as well. They all want a piece of this project. So Mr. Zungu was alleged to have stirred up chaos during a meeting between the contractor and members of the business forum, and I believe members of the community. And he seems to have taken a step back and isn't really getting his hands dirty in this regard. But his name was also mentioned in the court documents that he's one of the problematic individuals regarding completing this project.
Sure. It's funny how his name keeps coming up, hey?
Right. I don't understand this guy.
It's quite the story, Tembisa Maketa. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Graham. Have a wonderful day.
Trending topic.
Shifting to our trending topic now, and an electricity price hike by the Ekurhuleni Metro, on top of the usual NERSA-approved increase, has now led to a violent street protest by Tembisa residents. As our News 24 journalist Ntwahai Saleka reports, locals hurled rocks at police and blocked roads, not even allowing some of their neighbours to return home this Monday. It's understood these cities added a 13.4% hike on top of the NERSA-approved figure that already came into effect 1 July. Irate residents claim that they were never consulted, demanding that Ekurhuleni officials urgently reinstate disconnected power lines. Mayor Nkosi Ndipile Xhakaza was meant to meet with the protesters. In the meantime, a local mom from Mpumalanga has relayed her frustrations with Saleka, complaining that she left work to pick her child up from the creche only to be barred from entering her own suburb. We'll update you on this story when and as it develops.
Listen Up is News 24's sharp new podcast, where hosts Tim Cohen and Mark Barnes cut through the clutter with bold takes and unfiltered insight.
They're not fighting for the good of South Africa. And so this is degenerated into a series of tit-for-tat spats. How's that for a bit of poetry early in the morning?
Smart, punchy, and unapologetically real.
President Ramaphosa has explained why he did it, and the reason he did it was because he said that people weren't allowed to go to America, and then Andrew Whitfield did, and then there's a dispute about whether or not he asked.
Catch new episodes of Listen Up every Tuesday on News 24 or wherever you get your podcasts.
I know a lot about this. Not really.
Yeah,
but
there we go.
Here goes.
You can be the accused for a change. Yeah.
And finally,
she was last seen by human eyes just before the pandemic in 2019. Now, people have gotten sight of Knysna's last known remaining elephant, Opoort, again. A local farmer named Obas Fourie took pictures of the majestic elephant as she stumbled out of the coastal forest line last week Thursday. Forest cameras often snap pictures of Opoort, but this sighting is the most concrete as of late, as sandparks officials study her movements to see if more of her kind can join her in future. Named after a character in Dalian Mathias' well-known Kringe and a Bos novel, Opoort is believed to be in her early 50s now. Officials also regularly test her dung and found her hormone stress levels to be relatively low. But tracking her movements revealed that Opoort tends to avoid areas where humans are known to frequent more. So Sandparks is urging all locals to give Opoort her space so as to avoid putting her at any unnecessary risk. May her reign of Knysna continue. From a rare Knysna elephant sighting to a construction cartel heist happening under our nose. Welcome to the week. It's going to be a perler. We've got a flurry of comments in response to our previous episode from last week Thursday as the Ramaphosa administration grapples with a warring police force, a hollowed-out South African Air Force and a scuppered Navy. We asked how real or imminent the threat is of a coup d'etat in South Africa in 2025. We spoke to one of our top star journalists, Amanda Causa, asking the main question, whose coup is it anyway? And that's following claims put forward into the public realm by Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Ntshabeni, claiming that the threat of a coup happening in South Africa exists. As to some of your comments there, Aish Mshlakazi writes the following: people are not realizing that the coup's already taken place. The country's being run by mafias, construction mafia, drug cartels, ANC kleptomaniacs, fraudsters, kidnapping gangs, cash and transit gangs. The list is endless. The government's not in control of the country, and then the country's now a mafia state, according to this person, controlled by those in government, including the likes of Paul Mashatile and family. Let us wake up and vote them out. Paul Key writes the following: who's who in the coup? Nice spin there. Grumpy Grandpa also writes, love the is it a bird, is it a plane? In a fun way, it summarizes the snafu that we have. Will someone in authority please stand up and lead this beautiful country to prosperity that we all deserve and want? MN50 also claims this is a distraction tactic amidst the SAPS saga. And Haribo writes, at this rate, it could be Superman. The minister is so out of her depth that it's embarrassing to watch her make an absolute fool of herself. Then again, they have no shame. If you've got any comments, thoughts, anything on top of your mind about today's topic, please engage us. We look forward to all of your voice notes. You can send them to our official The Lead WhatsApp line. That number 072-562-3179. And hit the follow and subscribe buttons in the meantime on our Spotify, Apple, and YouTube podcast channels. That's to be reminded of each edition. We also hope that you enjoyed our very first edition of Bruce Whitfield's Business Week, crammed full of everything you need to know in terms of the business realm in 1 week, and the things you ought to remember at least a year from now. Those episodes are going to be dropping Thursday at 5 p.m. every week. My name's Graham Robenheimer, and so long as there's news, we'll always have the lead.